Can a 45-minute Instapot beat an 8-hour plus stock pot making beef stock? So first of all, thank you for everyone who watched that chicken stock pressure cooker video. It blew up in ways I could not even expect. So we're going to do a follow-up. I need beef stock for some recipes upcoming, so I'm going to test the good old Instant Pot here and see how it does, comparing it to making stock in an actual stock pot. This is my normal method. If you haven't seen that, the video is up on my channel. Go check that out. But what I normally do is I go to my Asian market and I get some bones. These are frozen bones. We have leg, we have neck, we got some ox feet. All these things I use to get good gelatinous meaty stock. You can tell there's a ton of meat on these. And then I'm going to follow the beef stock method the way that Chris Young did it. And we're going to use some ground beef and we're going to get into the Instant Pot. I'm going to cook the big stock pot for the next like 6-8 hours. And in the last hour of that recipe, I'm going to turn on the Instant Pot and cook that. And then we're going to do a taste test at the very end. So first up, I'm just going to throw all of these bones into the oven and we are going to just kind of roast them, get some good brown bits on them. I have some onions, some carrot, a little bit of garlic. Those will come in at the later point, but we will also roast those. You want a good little burnt brown bits on your onions too. And then we're just going to compare the two. And let's see how we do. All right, so here we are after about an hour and 15 minutes. We cooked these bones off. They're nice and roasty. You got brown bits everywhere. I'm going to separate a few of each section. We got a lot of meat left on the bones over here, which will give that good meaty taste and flavor. We got some great gelatin content over here from the legs and the hooves, and we're going to use those in the Instant Pot broth in a couple of hours. And then one little extra thing I always add to my beef broth, beef stock that you can add to that I'm going to add into this, a little bit of lemongrass. It makes it smell great, and I'm not sure if it really changes the taste, but I really just like to throw it in, so you can omit that. The point of this is just to do a taste test between the two. If you add other things into yours, totally fine. Omit what you don't like from mine. I'll see you guys back here in about 6 to 8 hours, and then we'll do the final part of this test. So to start the Instant Pot process, we're going to turn it on to saute. I'm going to add a little bit of a neutral oil, and then we're going to get in our ground beef. This is 85-20. You could use whatever you want. I tried to get not too high of a fat content to not make this greasy. And we're just going to flatten it out here and let it kind of brown. You'll see in the first 10 minutes or so a lot of moisture comes out, and then that's when the browning is going to start. We're going to let this go until about half of it is nice and brown because that will be the flavor and the color of the stock. Right about there is what I'm looking for. I don't want to risk this getting burnt, so once about half those pieces are nice and brown, we're going to start throwing in the rest of the ingredients. We got some carrot, we got that lemongrass, we got the bones, the good mixture of those from the other stock, and then half of an onion that I let brown in the oven, and then top that off with preheated water. I tried to get these proportions right. I used the full onion in the other stock, so we used about half of an onion here. And then we're going to throw that lid on and let this pressure cook for 45 minutes until it's ready. So here we are at that 45-minute mark. I let this fully vent on its own as you all recommended. It still was kind of bubbling and a little bit cloudy, so maybe it could have sat for another little bit of time, but here's what the stock pot looks like at the same amount of time. That was after about 6 hours. Overall, the colors look pretty similar, which makes me really happy. I'm going to take this one step further, though, and I'm going to strain each through some cheesecloth just to get out any fine grits and make this taste test as accurate to what I would be using it for. I'm going to quickly label the lids, throw them on the top, and then have my wife mix these two up so I won't know which is which when I'm tasting them. Okay, so here we have both stocks. Color-wise, they're almost identical. There's some little things in them that maybe lead me in one way or another, but the label is on the cover of the lid underneath, so even looking from the top, I cannot see which is which. So I think the only way to solve this is to do a little bit of a taste test and see what we think. I'm just going to mix them up too, so that's totally fair in case there's some oil. I did slightly strain them, and normally with a beef stock, I like to strain it maybe once or twice, so. Okay. Okay, so thoughts. I think I'm going to be correct, but I'm almost positive this one is the Instant Pot, and this is the stock pot. This is a little bit of a cleaner flavor. It's just tastes like a very good quality beef stock that's been cooking for a while. This one has a little bit of a greasy taste to it. I'm assuming that's from the ground beef. We didn't fully drain out that oil. Nowhere I've seen online says to do that. Chris, in his just one little comment, did not say to drain out that oil. And you can kind of see that on the top. There's a little bit more oil. If we let this sit overnight and let the fat kind of come to the top, skim that off, and then taste it, I might have a different impression. But so let's actually see if I was correct here. Yep, stock pot. So that's what I thought. Instant Pot, stock pot. I do like just the getting past the greasiness. It's a little too meaty, I think. The ground beef gives it a taste I don't love. It might be great for just drinking, but if you want to cook with this, I think you're going to be better off with something that you cook in a stock pot. But if I didn't tell you that this was from an Instant Pot, you would be completely happy with it. It is still a very, very good stock, very, very quickly as well. For a 45-minute Instant Pot session, I think there's some tweaks that maybe I'll work on. Maybe we try it with just the bones and no ground beef at all. But these are two very, very good stocks. Obviously, I think the stock pot is the best way just because you cook it for hours and hours and hours. You want that gelatin content. But this is actually, it's very good. It's just not my favorite. I like my OG stock pot. So if you don't want to spend 8 hours, go with this. You'll be happy with it. Skim the fat off and you'll be really fine. It'll be perfect for any use. But if you want to spend a day making stock, I think you'll reap the rewards, and this is definitely your better option.